Have you ever wondered how people make like billions of silver in Albion? Well, I'll give you a secret. They don't go out and do thousands of hours of solo dungeons grinding away to get those chests 50k at a time. No, most of the super rich people in Albion made their money in a very similar way. They bought items on the market for a low price and sold them later for a higher price. That is how most of the big money is made. And the good news is that you can do this too. It doesn't require hours and hours of spreadsheeting or intense knowledge of the markets to make a profit simply by buying items for a low price and selling them at a high price. In fact, Albion has built-in systems to make this very, very easy. And so that's what I'm going to be covering in this video. How you can make tons of money by simply buying items for low prices on the market and selling them somewhere else for high prices to make a lot of money very easily and very safely. But quickly, before we get into that, if you enjoy my content in these types of videos, please consider helping me by subbing to my Patreon or pressing join down below on the channel. It's not needed, but it does help me create these videos. So if you enjoy my content and have the means to do so, please consider checking those links out and maybe helping me out a bit. Okay, so basically in Albion, every royal city has different crafting and refining bonuses built in within it. So if you open up your map and you click on any of the cities, so let's say, let's go to Martlock, for example, and I click on the little Martlock cluster map, so this map here, and you pull down this little arrow at the top of your cluster map, you can see the local production bonuses. So these are things that apply to all the royal cities and then any zone in like the black zone as well. So if you go to the black zone here, all the black zones have different production bonuses as well within them. But the royal city ones are the main ones you want to care about because they're nice and safe. So if you go to Martlock, basically we can see that any refining of hide is significantly increased, and then if you make any axes or quarterstaves, frost staves, plate shoes, or any offhands, you will get a bonus to that crafting or refining if you do it in Martlock. And so the result of this is that pretty much the vast majority of refining for hide is done in Martlock. The vast majority of crafting for axes, quarterstaffs, frost staves, plate shoes, and offhands is all done in Martlock. Now you can probably see where I'm going with this, but pretty much all of these items that are crafted constantly or refined consistently within a city like Martlock are going to be sold at a lower price here because everybody's crafting them and selling them off than they are going to be in other cities. So if you were to check like an axe, people are going to be selling axes in Martlock a lot because they're crafting them in Martlock a lot compared to something like, I don't know, Lyndhurst that doesn't have that bonus for axes. So axes will be more expensive in Lyndhurst than they are in Martlock. So let's take an example. So I craft Hellion jackets, or I'm trying to get into crafting Hellion jackets. And so Hellion jackets are made from a artifact called Demon Hide Leather as well as leather. So let's say that I wanted to create from scratch a 5.3 Hellion jacket. And so the first thing that I have to do is to get some 5.3 hide and turn it into leather. Now, because hide bonus is in the refining bonus for hide is in Martlock, lots of people are going to be buying hide in Martlock, refining it, and then just selling it back on the market. So if we go to the market, we would expect two things. One, we would expect hide to be expensive in Martlock because that's where people are trying to buy lots of it. And we would expect leather to be cheap in Martlock because that's where all the people are selling it. So let's go over to Martlock and test this theory. Okay, so we're in the Martlock marketplace and I've searched up 5.3 hide and you can see that you can buy it for around 8.9 thousand silver. So this price, I would guess, is going to be more expensive than other markets. So let's go to, say, let's just go to like Lyndhurst, for example, because Lyndhurst does not have a crafting bonus for hide and it's somewhere you can gather hide. So I would expect hide to be cheaper than 8.9k in Lyndhurst. Okay, so we're in Lyndhurst. Let's open up the market here, and 5.3 hide, yep, is less than 8.9k. It's around 8.6k. So not the biggest profit margin on this in particular, but it is a profit margin nonetheless. Every hide that I would buy from Lyndhurst and transport it to Martlock would make me 300 silver. So if I transported 1,000 hides, I'd make 300,000 silver around. I'm not sure how big taxes play into that, but you will guarantee to make money. And what's nice is you can do this purely through safe zones. So I could travel all the way around the outskirts here, through all the yellow zones and blue zones, and go into Martlock. Or if I wanted to be faster and more risky, I could just go through the red zone as well and make it a faster transport. But either way, you could do that completely safely and make a little bit of money. And as well as that, if we looked, I imagine we would find pretty much the exact same story for leather, the refined version of hide. So it's refined mainly in Martlock because of the hide refining bonus, so you'd expect to find leather at low prices in Martlock where you can buy it up because everybody's refining it there, and then at higher prices in anywhere where you craft leather armor or leather shoes or helmets and stuff like that. So Thetford, for example, has a crafting bonus in leather armor, so lots of leather gets used to craft here, so you would expect leather to be at a higher price in Thetford than it is in Martlock. Now, on the other side, let's go back to our Hellion Jacket example. Hellion Jackets use that leather, and then they also use a artifact called Demon Hide Leather. So if I search up for Demon Hide Leather on the market here, you can see in Limhurst, for example, they're worth 131k, or 131.5k is what I can buy it for. And in Limhurst, they don't have any crafting bonus, so you'd expect them to be relatively low priced compared to places that do. So, right, you can make leather helmet and shoes, but no leather armor. Whereas in Thetford, where the bonus is for leather armor, if I go over there, I would expect that the price of Demon Hide Leather would be more than the 131.5k here. So let's go and check that. So we've gone over to Thetford, and as you can see, the Demon Hide Leathers are selling for around 150k, so that's almost like a 19k difference in the Demon Hide Leathers. So for every Demon Hide Leather that I bought from Limhurst and moved to Thetford, I would make 19k. Now, one interesting bonus note that I have for you if you want to make some extra money quickly by doing this is that normally what you would do when you're doing this sort of money making method is I'd go to Limhurst and I'd buy a bunch of Demon Hide Leathers from Limhurst, and I'd walk all the way around here in the blue and yellow zones and go all the way to Thetford and make around 19,000 silver per Demon Hide Leather. However, there is a shortcut that can make you do this a lot faster but make just slightly less profits. So let me go to Limhurst and show you what I mean. So when you're doing this kind of money making, one interesting thing to keep in mind is the profit of one individual item. So this Demon Hide Leather's one profit from one Demon Hide Leather will be around 19k silver compared to the weight of an item. So this is only 2 kilograms, and weight is an important stat when fast traveling. The lighter you are, the lighter your weight in your inventory is, the less you have to pay for fast travel. So if I was transporting like thousands and thousands of hide, I would have to pay absurd amounts to fast travel. But with just this one Demon Hide Leather, if I go to Thetford, it only cost me 600 silver to fast travel with one Demon Hide Leather. So basically, I could walk all the way around here to make 19k, or I could just fast travel and make 18k. So you can just very simply buy tons of Demon Hide Leathers off of the Limhurst marketplace and just fast travel to Thetford and sell them on that marketplace for a profit, which is just a really good way to do things. It's much more efficient in my opinion. You only make slightly less depending on the item, and it's just way faster. So that's an interesting thing you can do to speed up these transports and still make really good profits if you have the right items, and artifacts are definitely one to look at for that. So that's basically the gist of it. That's how you can make a ton of money really easily. Now, don't use the exact examples that I was using, because obviously the more people that watch this video and do that, they'll quickly become very unprofitable. But basically, you can easily find them, just as I was saying at the beginning of the video, on your own. Just go to any town, click this, open up the local production bonuses, and you can very easily think, how am I going to make a profit with this, right? Take any of the weapons or armors and say, okay, if there's a crafting bonus here, they'll likely be sold for a cheaper price, so I can buy a bunch of them up here and transport them to really any other city and make a bunch of money. Same thing with all the production bonuses and artifacts again. So if I go to Fire Staffs and I'm like, okay, I wonder what artifact is used for the Blazing Staff. I can go and I can search it up, go to the Blazing Staff, find the artifact, and probably make some money just by transporting the artifact from other towns to that city, which is, what is the Blazing Artifact? The Unholy Scroll. So just an example, right? And you can do this for anything. So just, I would choose one item that you enjoy or that you want to get into crafting or something, and just get really good at knowing the markets for that item, and you can make tons of money that way. Now, one thing that I also wanted to touch on is the black market. So there's a black market found within Caerleon where you can sell items to basically the game, and usually the items that you sell on the black market go for the highest price. And now there's tons of black market money making guides out there, so I'm not going to go too detailed into this. There's tons of videos that you can look at, but basically just know that if you go to the black market, you can pretty much have a profit on every single item. Now this is only like gear and stuff, so if I were to go to, let's just take an example again, Thetford, what's a weapon that has a bonus, nature staves. So if I make like druidic staves or buy druidic staves in Thetford for a lower price in transport than Caerleon, it's almost guaranteed to have the best profit on the black market. Now, just a couple things to note about the black market. If you're going to do this, one, it's always dangerous, right? You have to go through the red zones, and two, it's a little bit more volatile than other markets. Sometimes the black market is really good, you can make tons of money off it, and sometimes it'll actually be less money depending on how many people are randomly selling it to that day and sort of what the game wants to price things at. So if you're doing the black market, I would make sure you doubly check to make sure you are going to make a good profit. So if I was selling druidic staffs, I would just search it up and then go to like the ones I'm looking to buy, so like 5 ones for example, and just make sure that these prices, actually what I usually do is I'll show you what I usually do actually. I'd go to the market first. I go to the market and I just buy like one druidic staff of the ones that I'm planning to buy in Thetford. So let's just take a good quality druidic staff, because then you can really check the prices on the black market more accurately. Right, so now that I have a druidic staff, I can click the sell now, and then I can see sort of what price they're generally going for. So over the last 7 days, looks like they're selling for like 37, 36, and then recently they've been selling really, really high. Look at that, that's actually crazy, right? So if you catch something like this, you can make an absolutely absurd amount of money, right? Like I just bought this for like 30K, and it's been selling for around 36K, so normally you'd make around 5K, but right now you can make like 50K or something. I don't know why. Again, this is exactly what I'm talking about with the volatility of the black market. Sometimes it's absolutely crazy. So if you want to take that extra risk and go through black zones to try to make some extra money, just make sure you check the prices, buy one item, open up the extra window and see sort of what the market history has been like and what they're selling at pretty reasonably, so you know how much money you can sort of expect to make before you do it. Now, I just want to quickly cover a couple important notes if you're going to use this money-making method. So first off, if you're going to be doing this, you're going to be buying and selling a lot of stuff on the markets, and so it's really important to maximize your profits to use buy orders specifically, and obviously sell orders as well, but especially buy orders. Depending on the item that you're buying, you can save up to like 20-30% of the cost as you're buying things if you just be a little bit patient and use buy orders instead of just straight up buying them off the market, which can really do a number for your profits. Second, if you're going to be transporting around the yellow zones, make sure you go into your settings and turn on the notification to enter red zones. There's this really toxic YouTuber that made a video pushing AFK players into red zones from yellow zones, so you really want to avoid that. If you suddenly have to go AFK, or even if you don't, if you're like overweight and someone dismounts you, they can like push you into the red zone and you'll forcefully get zoned in, and then they can kill you in the red zone and take all your stuff. So you can completely avoid that just by turning on this setting. Having that warning enabled will make sure you can never zone into a red zone unless you consensually click yes. So the last thing I wanted to cover are just some pros and cons of this method, things that you should think about if you want to do it or not want to do it. So first, starting with our pros, it's a fairly safe way to invest your money. So pretty much the only way that you're really going to lose money after buying a bunch of stuff and going to another town and selling it is if the entire item crashes, like the entire item market crashes. So for example, if you were to use like a one-handed mace and buy it cheap and sell it high, and then they nerf the one-handed mace into oblivion and everyone starts paying like half as much for the one-handed mace, then you would lose money. But other than that, other than some like crazy patch changes and stuff like that, the investments are very, very safe because it will pretty much always be cheaper in the town where they're crafted or refined and more expensive other places. Second, a really nice thing about this money-making method is that it scales with your money or your net worth. So if you have like 100k silver to your name, you can do this method doing like tier 4 artifacts or tier 4 gear just fine, and you can still make good money for that 100k. But if you have 100 mil, you can do the exact same thing with like tier 8 artifacts and tier 8 gear and make good money too. So no matter how big your net worth is as a player, you can use this method no matter what. Lastly, a really nice thing about this method, similar to the last pro, is that you can choose how much you want to invest. Some money-making methods and some like market manipulation methods require to use a certain amount of silver or invest a certain amount of money into the method, but for this you can really choose however much you want. You can invest your entire bank into it, whether it's 50 mil or 100 mil. You can invest 100k into it. It really just depends how much money you want to make and how much money you want to spend on this investment. Looking at the cons now, I think there are two main really big cons for using this as a money-making method. The first is that large quantities of items take a long time to sell. So the more items you put into one market, the longer they're going to take to sell, and it might even drive the price down a little bit if you put too many in. Basically, this means that if you want to do large quantities and do a lot of items in one transport trip, you kind of have to split them up and do like a small amount of a bunch of different items to sell them fast, or you just have to accept the fact that it's going to take a while if you only do like 1 or 2 items for those to sell on a single market. This sort of like ties up your money and makes it so that you don't have access to it for a while if it's just sitting in the market waiting to sell. The second con is that this way of making money is pretty boring for most players. Not many people play a video game like Albion Online to sit there and stare at markets and walk around in safe zones from one city to another. So it's not the most exciting way to make money. It has no account progression. You're not actually really playing the game. You're just sort of sitting there and running some numbers. Anyways, that's all for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope it helped you make some money. If it did, do all the stuff to the video that you do to videos, and I will see you in the next one.